Hello and welcome. I'm Izzy, and before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that many of us are on various Indigenous lands. While I'm in Northampton in England, the Kerelos Centre for Nonviolence is located on the homelands of grizzly bear, takelma, dakubete, coyote, coho salmon, golden eagle, and grey wolf. This year, our Living One webinars have this, they're organised in, it's like a curated arc, if you like. And this is the second of 3 series. It's called Encounters with the Unseen. And in this series, we're speaking to people who, whether through their work in science, the contemplative arts, natural history, or spirituality, have experienced elements of the world that are invisible to many of us. And our guest today is Nina Pyykkönen. Nina is by profession a clinical psychologist working in a wide range of therapeutic modalities. She's also a Qigong and yoga instructor, a long-time student of animism, and a shamanic practitioner. Nina has always lived in 2 worlds and loves to integrate the scientific and the mythological, bringing evolutionary psychology and the wonderful findings of neuroscience into union with the spiritual sets her on fire. She has a particular interest and experience in depth psychology, shamanic work, dream work, and imaginative practices, as well as the transition of midlife. And Nina says she is herself a middle-aged woman, she does not look it, of Finnish origin, she does look that, and lives in southern Finland with her family, which consists of human people and animal people. Her favourite places are the forest and the lake, which she says are luckily not hard to find in Finland. So let's welcome Nina Pyykkönen. It's good to see you, Nina.
It's so good to see you, Izzy, and I'm extremely honoured to be here. As I told you earlier, we had a chance to just exchange some thoughts, and I said, I'm feeling really excited and particularly nervous, which for me is something that I don't experience that much because I don't really get nervous anymore in my everyday talks because I do a lot of talking. But today I was feeling very nervous, and I always know that this means that something really important is happening. So this is something really important.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's so lovely of you to say. First of all, can you start by telling us how you came to be where you are, of psychology and the Jungian coaching and shamanism?
I'll try. I'll tell you what I know because there's a lot of unseen there as well, probably. I think as long as I remember, I've been really interested in stuff that's a bit strange and mythical. As far as I can remember, when I was very little, I was very, very fascinated by fairy tales and stories and mythology. There's quite a bit of mythology in my country as well. We have elves and we have lots of nature spirits here. So I think that world was very natural to me. And also, I have probably started doing dream work when I was around 5. That's when I remember I actually gathered a dream group at daycare. And imagine, and this is not even this is not a story. I completely remember the dream group that there was myself and 3 other girls, and we gathered, and then we had this method of each choosing a dream that they could share with the others, and then you could choose whether it was a scary nightmare or a nice dream. But then we kind of listened and we shared. And one of my favorite books was about a magical bear who traveled around in space and everyone. And then the bear met this dream interpreter guy who was quite magical. And I remember thinking when I was little, I thought, I want to be like that dream interpreter man, because he was really fascinating. And I still have that book. So I've always been really fascinated, and I was always I felt it a bit weird that other kids weren't as interested in this stuff as I was. But maybe a bit later in my life, I think when I was thinking about studies, I was quite certain that it needs to be something that will take me to the understanding what life is about and what human life is about. And I started with religious studies, and that was very interesting because now I'm very appreciative of the fact that I have a very, very broad, also kind of not just general knowledge, but this kind of scientific base to the study of different worldviews and religions. And then I just thought, well, I need to understand what being human is about, and then I applied to study psychology, and that's when that's when I knew that this is definitely something that I'm very much into. Also, I had my own troubles, my mental health problems growing up, so this was probably something that really invited me to. It was this kind of it was natural because I had known how it felt to suffer and to not know how to help myself and to not be understood by people, and probably I was not very, very good at telling others either about my inner world. So all this came together, and I did know at a very early stage in my studies, I knew that, well, this is definitely me. This is something that's I felt that I was quite good at the psychology stuff, and I felt that it was something that I picked up very easily, especially the clinical side, the kind of understanding humanity side. And but it wasn't the end of the story, obviously. Or at some point, obviously, in my late 20s, I probably thought, well, this is it. I'm going to be a big psychologist. And then I went to study psychotherapy, and I was like, yeah, I'm now a clinical psychologist and a psychotherapist, and yeah, this is it. And then I was somewhere in my mid to later 30s when I found myself. This is literally how it happened. I went behind my own back and I applied for yoga teacher training, and I was like, and it literally felt, because I whispered, I phoned the person organizing the training. I was like, well, I can't probably come to this training because I'm like a psychologist and psychotherapist, and this is not for me, is it? Because I'm like, I come from science and everything. And then the person was like, yeah, this is for you. And I was like, okay, then I'm going to join. Please sign me up for the training. And I was like, what did I just do? I hope nobody heard me. So this was kind of me. I was doing stuff behind my back, but then I was also curious about the fact that, okay, what is this? What's inviting me now? Because a part of me knew that, yes, this is what I was like when I was a kid. This is also what I applied to study for. When I first went to study, I chose religious studies, and that this world of spirituality. And I thought, well, okay, I'm just going to, do the yoga teacher training and see where that takes me. And I think that was just like, it kind of took the lid off, and I was like, okay, can't go back. That door won't close anymore. And then I've been through the yoga stuff, and quite deeply in Buddhism as well, and Qigong training as well a bit later, and the Taoist world, which I find extremely interesting. And then I thought, well, wow, this is cool. I've got this other world, inviting me. It's not simple and easy to combine it with my scientific world, but I think I can do it. And then a major crisis hit me health-wise. I was diagnosed with skin cancer, and not the nice, but the really horrible one, melanoma skin cancer. And that just really, that was, I had just turned 40 at the time. And that was when I felt like, okay, now everything just blew up. Looking back, I can see that, like my Jungian analyst said, there is something very archetypal about this. When I was completely just shocked and in crisis. I'm like, I'm going to die, and I have kids, and everything's going to just really. And I was completely inside a black hole. And then my Jungian analyst says, well, there's something really archetypal about this. And I was like, what is he talking about? I have cancer and, it's about the cancer. Of course, it wasn't just about the cancer. It was about that as well, but there was something else. And just a few years before that, I had been diagnosed with narcolepsy, which it wasn't as dramatic as it sounds, because I just felt like, yeah, I get a bit sleepy in the day and I have major vivid dreams, like really, really major crazy dream stuff. Also lots of lucid dreams. And then I was diagnosed with narcolepsy and I was like, okay, well, this explains it. And then, but that's something I probably wouldn't give away, because there's a gift with that as well. But okay. And then after the melanoma diagnosis, I went to my Jungian analysis and I started having the weirdest dreams ever. And one of the first dreams after that diagnosis and beginning the analysis was as follows. I was inside my own dream and it was lucid, and I realized that I'm dreaming, but I can move around in my dream. And I was aware that I am in a world that has 3 levels. There was a lower level, and then there was a middle level, and then there was a higher level. And I could move between these worlds very easily. I'd just jump, and I was like, oh, this is quite cool. And on the middle or the lower level, I can't quite remember, I noticed it, I felt that there was someone else there, and then I looked and it was completely dark, but then I saw someone, and that someone was a bit not scary looking, but a little bit scary looking anyway. A male figure with a bony nose and blonde hair and a red band around his head, and his other eye was a little bit funny. It didn't quite open as much as the one eye didn't open as much as the other, and it was looking kind of a little bit in a strange way. So he was a bit scary, but I approached him and he was very kind. He gave me his hand and indicated come over here, and then he showed me. He kind of explained, not in words, but explained that this is how it's organized, and I thought, well, great, and we moved up and down, and when we went up, I saw someone else approaching, and there was a woman who was almost see-through in a blue dress that was very kind of the whole woman was quite see-through and quite sort of etheric, and the woman came to me. She looked very kind. She had dark hair, and then I thought to myself, okay, I'm clearly somewhere which is not ordinary. This is not my everyday world. So my lucid thinking was, okay, since I'm here and these guys clearly have knowledge and something that I don't, they are not from the same world as I am. So I gathered all my courage and I went to the woman and I said, okay, do you know what? I've been diagnosed with melanoma skin cancer, and I'm really scared. Can I ask you, what's going to happen to me? This is how I approached her. And she replied to me in a very strange language. It was like a riddle. It felt like she spoke a riddle, and I didn't understand the riddle or the language. So I was like, okay. And I said to her, I was trying to be very polite, and I said, thank you so much, but because I don't understand your language, could you please just this once say that in Finnish, so I could understand what you're saying. And I thought it was quite clever of me in the dream to kind of, and I was quite courageous, because it was scary at the same time, because it was so strange. And then the woman looked at me in a very kind way and she said, go on, go in peace, you'll be okay. This is what she said. And then I woke up. And the next day I thought, okay, since I have nothing to lose, and that's when I thought that I'm obviously going to die tomorrow anyway. That was my thought, because it was it wasn't the prognosis wasn't that I was going to die tomorrow, but my head said that I'm going to die tomorrow. So I thought, well, if this is what I am being shown, then I should perhaps look into this more. And because I had studied religious studies, I knew about shamanic worlds, because it was obviously one of the things that we study is the animistic thinking in shamanic worlds. So I thought, yes, 3 worlds, and I was moving between them, and there was these guides and everything. Okay, I shall look into this. And then this time I didn't go quite as much behind my own back as with the yoga teacher training this time, but I was a bit like, okay, how irrational is this? We didn't have any shamanic workshops coming up in Finland, or I didn't know of any. So I flew all the way to Germany to participate, because I just felt that I really need to understand this more. And at first I didn't. I felt like I was the only science person in the room, and everyone else was so spiritual, and they were breathing it. They were all so good at it, and I was like, okay, I can't do this. This is weird. I'm just gonna take a plane back home. I can't do this. But then I had a really kind lady from Italy who had done this work for quite some time, and I think that something about her, she was quite, like, yeah, I'll be fine, you'll get it. And then she got me a power animal, and it was in fact an animal that I had seen in the workshop before she went to retrieve a power animal from the lower world for me, but I didn't trust because of my scientific mind. So that's when I thought, okay, I won't give up. I've got my power animal, I've got a guide, and I just stuck with it. And I started studying first with one teacher who was in the UK, and then online, and then I found another teacher here in Finland, and then I kind of went. I was doing Jungian analysis, and I was studying Jungian psychology. I've done that for quite many years, but I was continuously doing that. And then I was doing the animistic path, and then the depth psychology. And I just thought, well, it doesn't really matter which words I use. It's the same stuff. It's like, it was like, I had this naive thought, do other people know that this is the same stuff? but probably not very many, because not many people take both paths, because you're kind of made to choose, aren't you, in our world? Because you do this, then you can't do that, because it's just, you can't be scientific and then do this very experiential, like this very primitive stuff like animistic work, shamanistic work, which science would like to see to belong to the past, to the primitive people, and rather not to modern science people. But this was quite a long answer. How did I get here? Well, this was how I got here. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you what role the more than human world, because I know you live with non-human people and human people, so the more than human communities, obviously it plays an important role in your thinking, and you mention animism. So how does that impact your worldview? What is your worldview as an animist?
My worldview as an animist is that everything is alive and everything has spirit and soul. So really, it's about, on one hand, about interconnectedness between beings. And on the other hand, it's about the oneness of everything. And as you can see, this also, if you turn it like this, then here we have the interconnectedness, which is the lower world in animism. It's where you have all these separate beings, but the point about soul is everything connected together. And then when you have spirit, it's about the oneness. You kind of have both. So this is the worldview, and I think what is so important about animism is that because we're interconnected, it's always a two-way thing. It's about reciprocity. It's about, if I take something, I will give. If I need something, I will ask. If another being is in trouble, I will help. And if I'm in trouble, I will ask them to help. So it's really that, I think that's the core, that's the simple core of the animistic thinking. It's about us being so interconnected, and also not just that, not just an idea of an ecosystem, which in itself is incredibly wonderful. I think I love the word ecosystem. It's a scientific word, but I kind of love it. It's great. I always see this kind of web when I say the world. Yeah. It's not just the ecosystem. It's about the joy of feeling sometimes that it is such a two-way thing. Sometimes I literally feel that that I am being appreciated and approached by the other beings in a strange way, and I can't explain it, but it's like this. It's like when we open up to being in relationship with everything, you don't really have to do so much. It happens, and I think that's something that it's so natural, and it's so also it's also very painful in today's world, because when you live in this way, you will feel the pain of others as well. So this is probably something that many people who are very close to everything and nature with a capital N, they feel that when another being is hurt or not treated well or exploited, you will kind of feel the pain because it's the interconnection. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things, because then it will not. In today's world, it's very hard to find peace, because there's so much of that happening, that we are causing pain to many beings, and I think that's, I wouldn't say it's the downside, but it's one side of animism as well. But then I think we're meant to feel the pain, because that's how we naturally will treat each other well, and that's what animism is about, and that's also what psychology is about. When we infer subjectivity, when we insert an experience and a mind to another being, we cannot hurt them because they are another. Whereas if we don't, then it's, they're just products, they're just something to exploit. So I think in psychology, we know very well the practice of attributing a mind to another. That's what we do as humans. That's our superpower. In psychology, we call it mentalizing. But the thing is that in the modern world, I don't think anyone has spoken about how we should mentalize not just other human beings, but the other than human as well. We should infer attribute, subjectivity, and also feelings, also experience and subjectivity, intentionality to other beings. And that's not to say that we should do this kind of naive anthropomorphizing. That's not at all it, because we know that the birch is not a human. I can see it, and I know that it's not a human, but it's still a subject. So really, to attribute this inner world and this subjectivity is the basic, the core thing about being human. We should use that, because that's our ability, that's our place in the ecosystem, to really to infer subjectivity, and we don't even do it to fellow humans anymore. We've lost the ability, because we're so scared all the time, and we're so under threat. We lose it under threat. If we feel that we're being threatened, we lose our mentalizing ability, and we get into survival modes. And I'm really worried that this is why we are destroying our surroundings, nature as well, because we've lost our ability to mentalize due to feelings of threat and unsafety. So, I don't even remember the question, but this was apparent.
No, that it was about the more than human world, but that sort of, when you're talking about that ability to mentalize for another being, I think, I mean, would you say that in order to mentalize appropriately for someone who is very different, that one appreciates the differences as well as the likenesses of the other, that then, in the past, a person would have been living amongst trees and birds and bears and everyone, and so would have throughout the course of their life come to know these different people. For us who aren't regularly living amongst those people, there is a role for scientific understanding, there is a role for ethology, in that we need to give ourselves this prosthetic to help us move into mentalizing. Do you think that that's the case?
Well, I think it really helps. My colleagues who approach me with interest in animism and shamanic work, they benefit a great deal when I start with a science, because that's our world. We are modern Western humans. So whenever I do, I have retreats or workshops where we practice shamanic journeying. I will always start from the field that's very close to these people, because then they will start feeling safe. They'll be like, oh yeah, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, this is a theory I've read about. And we start from depth psychology, and then we move into, and it's kind of, it's a very natural course, because well, if we do study the ways of indigenous people and our ancestors way back when they were hunter-gatherers, it's very much something that I think for the modern human would be something that we could connect with. It's not gone, but we might need to go there a different way. We might need to, because if I say to a person of science, come and do a shamanic journey with me, and then I'll explain, and they'll be like, okay, this is crazy and a bit scary, and I won't do it. And so we need to utilize the understanding that people have, and when we need to people need to be safe. People need to feel safe to learn something very new, and to also challenge the views that they've held because of our culture.
What do you think is the sort of benefit of, I mean, for you personally, but also more broadly? Because I mean, I'll just share here. I did a period of Jungian coaching with Nina, which was really wonderful. But the Jungian coaching, as you said, Nina, my process of sort of active imagination ended up being a process of starting out with shamanic journeying, and I did find it incredibly nourishing and incredibly rich, and was something that I sort of wanted to continue and wanted to explore and experiment with, and still do, which is one of the reasons that I was so keen to invite Nina to this. So I can sort of speak to it having been very nourishing for me, but from the point of view of a practitioner, of someone who's gone, far more deeply into shamanic rituals and shamanic training, where do you think the sort of like benefit lies for the individual, and perhaps even on a wider scale for a broader understanding of the situation we're in and where we could go?
That's a wonderful
big question.
question.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Firstly, it's quite easy to answer in the sense that shamanic work is always for the community. It's always towards the others. It's actually the definition. We do have Western versions where we as we have of everything, where we kind of become individualistic and we want to nourish our personal spiritual growth, and then we get lost in ourselves. But shamanic work, how I've always approached it and how I've learned it, is that it's always towards the community, and it's, I think that and how I experience it is that when you get into the work, and I would say it's kind of when you open up to what is there. And now I'm really having to, I'm feeling it, but I'll have to explain this to you as well, because you can't read my mind, unfortunately. it's I'll get Carl Jung to help me here. Jung says the purpose of life is to let life do what it needs to do through you as a person. So you need to get to know what are your special gifts in this world, and let life use them. So I think in shamanic work there is always that feeling of life doing stuff through me, and it's not always nice. It's not always fun. I get into trouble because I voice things that people don't want to hear. And this is my thing. You guys might get into different troubles. This is my troubly thing, because I tend to through my work and through my own personal process and perhaps my structure and my genetic build, I tend to become very aware of shadow material in the world, and in society as well. And shadow material is not evil stuff. It's stuff that's been pushed away, like Jung said. It's stuff that we don't accept in ourselves. So we push it away and we're like, no, that's not me. But then it works through me unconsciously, and I might do really bad things because I'm not aware of my shadow. So this is one thing that that I think has come through, that I just need to voice things in society. Obviously, I voice things for those who don't speak our language, but also between our human world, between our human people. So I think that's one thing, and I do think that there is a purpose for that as well, but it's not always nice. Then maybe the nicer things, I think that sometimes when I feel that I'm really open, I do like this, because I feel that when I'm open, it's like, we call it power. It's not power like in politics. It's more like the power that is in the connection in everything, the connection with everything, and that kind of, when that rises through me, I feel like I know that I'm not just me. It's something that I'm bigger than myself. This is how I feel. I feel that I'm much bigger than myself. I'm not me, and I can do things that little me wouldn't ever do. So I think when in shamanism, there's two things that we need to have. We need to have parts of our soul in us, and then we need to have our power with us. If something happens, we may experience soul loss or power loss. They're the two diagnoses in shamanic work, which will result in shamanic illness or just us not feeling good. Soul loss is very much similar to what our psychotherapists know as trauma. So soul loss is kind of, I think, modern psychotherapists are very good with soul loss. They're very good at treating it. So that's not really, I don't think that's such a huge issue. We know a lot about trauma, and we know how to treat trauma, and I think we do it quite well. But then there's the other half, we do not address power loss at all in our Western society. Power loss is loss of connection with it between us humans, but also connection between all beings. This is what I spoke about earlier when the interconnection is. And I think as a shamanic practitioner, I think what I mostly do is power retrieval. I help people get the power back, which in English is I help them to connect again with everything, with the other than human, with the unseen. So that's probably my main thing. And I think all shamanic practitioners, they have their own special thing that they feel that this is quite natural for me, so I shall do this. So I think this connection and the power, bringing back the power to and the power always comes from connecting to the earth. So all that comes to us is not, it's not just our power, it's the whole thing. So yeah, a very difficult thing to explain because it's a very experiential thing that I tried anyway.
I want to encourage people, if you would like to type any questions into the chat, because after the next question, I'm going to ask you to sort of put your hands up or start reading out questions from you. So have yourself a thought of what you'd like to ask Nina. I just wanted to get a sense because, you know, we're most of it, not Katarina. Katarina's from Sweden, so she knows, she has some understanding of the Scandinavian world, the broader Northern European world. But I understand that, you know, having trained with, was it Paul Francis from the book that
Yes.
you recommended, that you
Yeah.
trained with online from the UK, that now the person that you're training with is Finnish, is in Finland. Is that right?
No,
No?
actually, she is in Finland. She's called Christiana, and she's actually an American woman living in Finland,
Ah,
and she has studied in Siberia in the Tuvan community. So
oh, wow.
she really has been trained in the Siberian Tuvan tradition, and then Christiana has been combining that knowledge with the Finnish tradition, with the Karelian, the Eastern Finnish tradition, especially, which is where my roots are. So we are connecting in a really a wonderful way, and there's so many. And she's also studied, I think, in North America, I think, with the Native Americans, and I think I remember her telling me this. So there's a lot of experiential
Tradition.
knowledge and tradition coming in. And
What happens when you go for a training? I mean, presumably it's not like going for you know, the continuing education of a psychologist, which would be sort of like sitting in a room with someone doing a PowerPoint demonstration. I can imagine it's rather different from that.
it is very different, and it's about it's very experiential. Obviously, it's not about reading books. You can read, and reading books is encouraged if there's some good stuff to read. But it's always about the experiential, and it's always about, of course, listening deeply to what is being shared by someone who has, in a very profound way, been given some traditional knowledge. But at the same time, it's about finding your own thing, because we are all different. If we are being called to this kind of work, it might not always be like we imagined or in the movies. It might be something different, or even something, oh, I didn't want this, but then, you know, it's what, you know, it's what wants to come through me, so I have to. So I think it's about finding that. It's about finding that, but also it's about discipline. And I think a very important thing is it's about shadow work as well. So in English, that means really doing your own work, doing your own inner work. So really being with that hurtful stuff, being with all the painful things that you carry with you. So you can't really work for others if you're not aware of your inner world. So I think that's where psychology and shamanism definitely sort of interconnect. It's always about doing your own work, and you have to go through it. You can't go around it. There's no way. You always have to do your own work. And I know many shamanic practitioners that would very clearly guide their students to psychotherapy. They'll say, "You do your work first, and then come to shamanic work." And I think that's good and healthy.
Has it changed your ethics? Has it changed the way that you relate to the more than human world as well to be involved in this training? Because you've always had a sense of connection and you always have wanted to help people, but has it changed things?
It has. It's it's given me, and I think this is also where I think we should give credit to our wonderful thinking apparatus as well as humans, because I think I have got so much intellectually valuable stuff from my trainings with both Paul Francis and Christiana. It's because there's so much of that. There's so much of that knowledge. Sometimes it's very much like theoretical stuff. Sometimes it's just experiential knowledge. But it's also like because we're humans, we need to understand. We need to understand like how things are connected, why we do stuff, and why, so we need to have some kind of structure. We need to have some kind of theory. It might be an experiential theory, but we need something. I think my teachers have given me understanding of how kind of how to approach things, how to learn from my own guides, how to do it, some really good practical work. And also I've loved the way we always go and we try things and we see what happens when I try this, when I do this journey, or if I work with plant people, how does that feel? So really that kind of, it's about experiencing and being open and being very honest and being willing to learn and not knowing about stuff, and not having to kind of not having to package things. It always in shamanism, you very much hear when people ask questions, you very much hear the teachers say, "Trust your guides, ask your guides, trust your guides, ask your guides." So it's when we start being too human, we're like, "Oh, how should I do this? Would this work?" And it's like, "Well, ask your guides." So we remember, oh yeah, because we are quite we are kind of experts of the middle world, because we are middle world beings with our kind of hair and skin and flesh and blood and stuff. We know middle world stuff. We know like politics and physical bodies and molecules and natural sciences. This is all middle world cool stuff. And our guides know it. They're like, "You're the middle world person. You do your middle world stuff." But then when we need to get information that's not available to us, we need to go to the non-ordinary world, like Michael Harner says, or we need to do a shamanic journey. Or if you are more sort of Jungian thinking, we need to do active imagination and approach the archetypal, which, whichever word you want to use, I don't mind. I think it's the same thing. Archetypes or archetypal figures, you can call them spirits. You can call them guides, or you can call them archetypal figures. I personally do not mind or care, because
I read something.
Yeah.
I read something today, which I was reading it this morning. It's from a book called Animistic Encounters with a Living Cosmos by Gordon White. And I had this on my, maybe I'll read it list for quite a while. And I'm really glad that I got it. Anyway, this passage, he says, anthropologist Amber J. Seppi, in her PhD thesis, Tracing the Motherline, Earth Elders, Decolonizing Worldview and Planetary Futurity, writes, "You cannot learn from anyone or anything if you're not open to the possibility that it has the ability to teach you. A permanent openness, a perpetual and deliberate refusal to close inquiry down into a single and final fact, is a hallmark of animist cosmopraxis. It's how one worlds a world that is perpetually forming rather than already formed. And he goes on, here we're back with Graham Townsley's characterization of Yamina Hua shamanism as an ensemble of techniques for knowing rather than an assembly of known facts. Animism is perpetually attending to the awareness that knowledge will show itself in multifarious and unpredictable ways, and any attempt to conceive beforehand, to preconceive, will limit the presencing of things.
Exactly. Yes.
It's good, isn't it?
It's wonderful. It's absolutely perfect. And I was thinking while you were reading, I was thinking how what's really for me is one of the best things that Carl Jung said, and he said a lot of good things. He said, we have to, as humans, we have to leave stuff open. We have to understand that many things will just remain a mystery to us, and we need to be in a relationship with the mystery, because we cannot know. There's no way that we can know. Even he said, even nature, there is a part that's a complete mystery to us. Matter is a complete mystery to us. Partly, we don't know about everything, and I think some of the best feedbacks that I have ever got from my practice as a psychotherapist are when in psychotherapy there are instances, they're fairly rare, but they do happen, where I say to my client, I will leave this, I will not touch what you have just shared, because I feel that there is something there that I could not possibly add anything to. There is nothing that I could say more than what is already there. So I shall leave this and appreciate it and let it be. These are instances when something happens that is not rationally understandable, like in a dream, someone's close person coming to them and giving them exactly what they have needed for years and years. They've already passed. A person who's died, and they come to the dreamer, and what happens is that everything just heals, and then they bring it to psychotherapy, and I just say, I can't say. All I can say is that something really, really big just happened, and let's give it that. So really, and I think people have come back to that after at the end of the psychotherapy, which might be for years, and they might say, it was when you said be seen and respected, because I didn't, and because the experience that someone's close relative who they never got to talk to about important stuff comes to them at night, and it just all really comes together. And I don't know, because it's a fact. I don't know what happened. I just know that something huge happened, and it's really important for my client, and it feels really important to me. So to for us to be able to leave things open as scientific people is I think we need to really be very humble. We need to say, wow, I can't know. It could well have been your father. It could have been something else. I don't know, but this is what happened. So instead of interpreting it to just be product of their mind, or to because that would bring it down. If I said anything like that, it would just make it smaller than it is, and it would be an attempt from my side to be bigger than I am. And I'm not bigger than these phenomena. I don't know. I don't have a clue. I'm a little human. So I'm just going to have to say, wow. I very often say wow as a psychotherapist, because it's like client tells me something, I'm like, wow. And I think that's a really cool word for psychotherapy. I think it should be taught in psychotherapy training, how to say wow.
I don't see any hands up yet, but I know that there are people there who are very interested in Jungian work. Oh, Sunny, hello. I know you're interested in Jung. So, Sunny, the floor is yours.
I am very interested. And Nina, honestly, I'm just kind of blown away. And I think my word is wow. I was, I, all I really wanted to ask was, if you could give an example of an experience, like if you were to tell us, to give us a guidelines about how we could experience something, something simple that what would it be and how would you explain, just really quickly, since we're running out of time.
Do I understand your question correctly? You would like to connect with something unseen,
Yes.
and how could you do that? There is I shared with Issy a little practice that will be given to, or was given already.
Yes. No, they'll have it. I'll be sending it out after this, Sunny.
Yes, and I think I will give you some in words now as well, but for everyone to know that you'll be given a little practice that might get you started. But I think just to firstly, it's really important to when we try to connect with the unseen or the non-physical world or the non-ordinary reality, we need to be in our bodies, and I think we need to really how I like to put it is that we need to be human animals to do this work. We need, like Jung said, to connect the modern human with the 3 million-year-old man, for them to come together. So we need to kind of, and when I say go downwards with our consciousness, we need to go into that instinctive, that immediate bodily world. So when if you want to go, for example, if you wanted to go out into the forest, and if you'd like to connect with someone there to see who's there, if you'd like to do some middle world work, with shamanic work to the upper and lower worlds, it's a little bit different, but not much. But it's very important that we are in our bodies and we are not overthinking stuff, because that will, although being up in our heads might help us connect with humans sometimes. If we're too much up in the head, it might also be a hindrance. But we need to clearly come more. I always do this because I feel that we need to be somewhere below sort of neck level. My metaphors are funny, but just that openness that Issy read about in the book, that quote, kind of openness, and what I find really, really important is the playfulness. Is because in Jungian coaching we become really non-rational, and we play a lot, we imagine and we play a lot. I even have a sandbox for adults that my clients can use. It's wonderful to really imagine and to let yourself do what the human animal has always done, to imagine, like, okay, I am here now, and I really want to connect with this tree stump here, and you just go there and you say in your mind or out loud, you say hi, and just not intellectually, like, okay, now I'm connecting with the tree stump and I'm getting all these vibes. None of that. Really, just really normal conversation. We need to treat the other as they were just any normal other person in a conversation. This is the point. We need to, and that's where children are really good, because they're like, well, hello, bee. And then they say, well, the bee's not responding. And you can say, well, yeah, I think they are. And then, oh, yeah, they are. Now I'm hearing the bee say this and that. So we need to do that. And don't expect a certain answer, like in the quote. Just see what happens when you start a conversation with another. like the tree stump, ask them a question and listen to what they say, and just take everything that comes, because the answers are obviously not like in my dream. There was a riddle. It was words, but it was a riddle and completely nonsense language for me. So that attitude that if I do speak to anyone here, that the conversation will open, and to be patient and to be playful about it, and to and if that's a little bit too difficult, then you can again come back to Jung. You can take a little notebook with you when you go to the forest, and there's a tree stump, and then you sit down and you divide your page into two, and on this side there is myself, my human Nina, and then on this side there is tree stump, and then I start writing. I open the conversation. I say, "Hi, tree stump. I would like to ask you a question that I think you might be able to help me with." And then you write the tree stump's answer. And this requires that you don't kind of you don't pre-think it. You just write what comes. You really write what comes, because that's the imaginative function that us humans we have. If nature were to talk to us, and nature does, it will talk through our imagination. So really to write whatever comes. And yes, your conscious mind will say, this is silly and embarrassing, childish, you're making it up. This is, but my mind still says this. You're making it up, this is stupid. And you can tell your conscious mind, your intellectual mind, of course I'm making it up. This is imagination, you silly ego apparatus. Can you just wait a little while? You can analyze this a little later. That's what we always have this discussion, my ego and my conscious mind, and then my other bits and pieces. So have this kind of dialogue, at least six pairs of dialogue, and then afterwards read it. Don't think about it while it's happening. Afterwards read it and think, well, I wonder what happened there. So that kind of imagining stuff and then letting go. This is the shamanic work. You have to imagine going to your axis mundi and finding your way to the lower world and the upper world. It doesn't happen like, okay, movie, begin, then you go to the movies. It's active imagination for a reason. It's not passive imagination, it's active. It's because you have to imagine. And when you're there, when you have the image, you can let go. And then you're like, what? I didn't write this. This is surprising. And that's when the cool stuff happens. I don't know if I just confused you a little more, but there it is. Now go and try.
Erica has got her hand up. Erica, would you like to unmute yourself, and you can make yourself visible or you can remain unseen. It's totally up to you.
I'm still in pajamas. I'm not sure. So you were talking about shadow self, and I'm not sure if this has anything to do with it, but I've had nobody to talk to about my experience. In my young 20s, there were two separate occasions. Well, one occasion I was with my friend, and yeah, we smoked marijuana, but we were in the attic. It's like a bedroom attic, not a scary attic. And we both saw this like medium size, like a medium dog size shadow creature thing. And when we both saw it, we both also saw it like run down the stairs and disappear. We were like, oh my God, what the heck? We both saw it. And then another instance, like a year later, I was going to sleep. And again, I think I smoked marijuana, but I was trying to go to sleep, and I saw right above me in the ceiling area, the same sized shadow creature. It was like medium dog size, was hovering above me, and I felt very scared. But I told myself, just fall asleep, ignore it, fall asleep. And I think I did fall asleep, but then my cousin came to knock on my bedroom door with his friend. And I sort of forgot about it, because I just woke up because they knocked on my door, and I go out to greet them. And his friend starts hovering his hand around me saying, whoa, I sense something is around you. And I didn't even tell them about this hovering shadow thing above me while I'm trying to sleep. Like I didn't say anything. I just walk out of the room and his friends start saying that he senses this thing around me and he doesn't know what it is. I sort of felt like fear from it or something freaky. I've been through a lot of trauma in my life. But I sort of just pushed it away and I thought maybe I read something about some shadow demon. So I got rid of like all my ancient Egyptian artifacts, thinking that the Eye of Ra or something was making this shadow demon follow me. But then years go by, I don't see it or anything. I always remember because those were experiences with other people. So I know I didn't make it up in my head. But just last year, it was smaller this time, like the size of a hamster. And all my animals saw it, and even my husband saw it. And it was funny, like the dog because it appeared right in front of the dog. The dog got scared, like jumped, and my kitten tried to play with it. And then it just like zoomed away. And my husband saw it all too. And I'm not sure if I just haven't had anybody that's experienced the same thing. I don't know if you've heard of anything about it. Is it anything to do with shadow self? I don't know. Everybody else has seen it around me. Have you heard of anybody else experiencing this?
Thank you for sharing. I'm absolutely certain that very, very many people have experiences like you've just shared. This kind of stuff, we cannot, of course, know with this much information what it metaphysically might be. Of course, there's the influence of drugs, and some of us are much more sensitive to forming pictures and hallucinating while we are under some kind of mind-altering substance.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that just last year when I saw the hamster size one, I haven't been smoking weed for years. I don't drink alcohol. So like the last time I saw it, I wasn't even on anything, and everybody else, and including my pets, saw it. So I forgot to mention that part. I thought that was important.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't say, when I talk of the shadow, I wouldn't name this kind of phenomena through that those terms using the shadow, because I think what's really important is that when we talk of the shadow, it's always a part of us. The shadow is always, of course, there's the collective shadow that societies might have as well, but it's a collection of human shadows. So in my experience and in my view, I have not been in contact with evil things as such. Of course, there are, in our middle world, in our human world, this is like in shamanic teachings, it's the place that has most risks in the shamanic cosmology is the middle world, the human world, because I think we have some forces here like addiction, for example, or we have projections that are like sort of mind stuff that we do to each other. We have some that might be called kind of evil spirits in our ancestors' world, but I think that of course I understand that seeing things that should not quite be there, or that behave in a way that they're not physical things in this world or from this world, it's always scary. But very often I have found, for example, when there's a really scary nightmare, I have found that something incredibly interesting happens when we start dialogue with the character or the figure that even though they're scary, if we say, "Hi, who are you? And is there something that you want to talk to me about, or is there something that you want?" Things very often change. I have numerous experiences of really scary nightmares where the dream becomes lucid and I am with this most scary horror movie witch that I've ever seen, and the witch is approaching me and I feel that its presence is suffocating me. And then I gather my courage and I say, "Okay, I know you're my shadow. You're a part of me. And please, tell me what you want, because I'm not going to be scared." And I am scared, but then there's that side of me who knows that this witch it's me. Because so I think in that sense, coming back to the shadow, it might be that they are somehow parts of us that we have sent away, and they take form in this way. So that's one way to look at it. But also, I think to just go to it, do a little imagination, do a journey, and go to the figure that you saw, and ask them, "Who are you? And what did you want? I saw you there." So rather than, push them away, ask them, approach them, say, "Come here and speak to me." So this is a very kind of Jungian way of doing the shadow work. Because what we've done with our shadow stuff is we've been pushing them away and we've locked them in the basement, in the cellar. And then what we need to do is invite them back. And it's not nice. And it's not the most inviting thing, obviously, to invite back the stuff that you've sent away, because it's unacceptable and you don't want to see it. But it's a path to wholeness, like Carl Jung said. So I think this is always worth exploring. We cannot know, for Erica, we cannot know what it was because we don't know things like this, but we can explore and we can be curious about what it was.
Yeah, I thought, so, being younger, maybe you find enjoyment with being afraid. Like, you go see horror movies. I don't know, it's like exciting, fearful, going through all that trauma. Now, as being older, it's like, man, I wish I would have done something else. Maybe I would have more answers. Like you're saying, approach it or say something, it's hanging out. Now it's like, it's interesting because now I am really curious and want to go about it a different way. And now it's showing up as like a hamster size, it's not so big. Maybe it's purposely become smaller so I won't fear it. Or maybe it's a different entity, like maybe it's not the same one, but it's, I don't know anything. And now it just disappears so fast once anyone notices it. So I don't know. But
you can always invite it. You can always invite it. Okay, come here and tell me what you want, and do the writing exercise with it. And it doesn't matter if you don't see it. You can imagine it. You can invite it, because then you will see it, not with your physical eyes, but with it. Let it take form and have a dialogue with it, and see. It might have something really important to tell you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I noticed, Anne, in the chat, you were interested in the power animals or guides. So I wonder if you just wanted to ask Nina or.
Yeah. So hello and thank you. I started out being really interested. Well, I still am interested in the whole idea of animal guides and an animal spirit, but I've also been having this whole other line of thinking, which is that ever since starting with attending to the More Than Human World series and then this series, that my relationship with my garden has changed dramatically. And it's funny because it's not like I don't experience this as though I am communicating with the spirit world. I now see the garden as both individual plants and animals and insects that live there. And she is a whole being, right? So I'm talking about her. She looks like this, does this, feels like this. I talk with the individual plants, and it's kind of funny. It's like they were all there all along. I knew they were alive, but I wasn't attending in a way that I could hear them. I think they were hearing me, but now they're not speaking in English. Like, that is not what is happening. But I'm asking questions. So why are you showing up so much? Why is this plant showing up so much? Are you here to do something, or are you just out of control and starting to get a sense? So the Canada goldenrod is a bully. I mean, he just is. He can't control himself, and he might need a little bit of help. The Bidens, I can't remember the rest of his Latin name. There were 3 that showed up last year, and there are like thousands of little plants this year. And I'm like, what are you doing? Do I need to know something here? And I don't know that yet. I don't know what's going on there. Other plants that didn't grow that I adore, like Rattlesnake Master, is this really phenomenal plant. And I've planted many, they wouldn't grow. Now they're growing suddenly. I don't know. I just keep saying to people, look, I don't understand it, but I can enjoy it. Like, I can just really enjoy it. But it's just an interesting experience to be having this experience with all of these people. Going back to the animals, that was really a comment. The animal spirit thing. So there are times that the whole animal world the non-human animal world is confusing to me. That the human animal world is always confusing to me. So, but like the hawk will show up. I had a gathering here for a Veg Fest board, all vegan, right, with an animal rights activist who is going to do the keynote at the next day's Veg Fest. We're doing a thing on our back porch, eating great vegan food, talking about all this stuff. And a hawk showed up and killed a baby rabbit and lifted him out of my garden and landed on top of a 6-foot fence. And there's blood dripping down off of the fence. And I'm like, he wasn't 20 feet from us. And then he gathered his strength and then flew off with the bunny. And we all, like, someone saw, there was this commotion, and then someone realized, and everyone stopped and looked. And then I'm like, why did you do that at that moment? Like, why was that the thing that you chose, rather than a baby bunny hopping around the garden happily? Why did the hawk choose to do that? And that, I'm not sure it was the exact same hawk, but a year earlier, the hawk had gotten a bullfrog out of the pond, and that was horrific. And so at that moment, when my husband and I both saw it, and it was like, happy for the hawk because he got the bullfrog, horrified for the bullfrog who was still alive as he flew off. And then within weeks, the rest of the bullfrogs started going after birds. And started killing, and they tried to kill. We had a big commotion because one of them tried to kill a juvenile catbird, and I saved her. But then the frog and I did not have still don't have that was 3 years ago. Anyway, I don't know what it is that they're trying to tell, or whether that has anything to do with, like, I don't know. I don't know what this all means. Or if I don't know what to think about it.
Yes, and I think it's not easy being a human animal because of this kind of, as you said, oh, happy for the hawk, but then there's the frog, and because for the animals it's not really a problem. For the middle world animals. It's just what they do. But
Right.
for us humans, it's a problem because we are kind of built this way, and it's I think, well, it's exactly that. We are built to think about everyone's feelings and personal experiences, because that's what being a human is about. It's quite cool that we do this, but it's also very painful because, you know, then we get into this human stuff. But firstly, about the garden, I love the way you said it's like a she, the whole garden, and in shamanic thinking, we very often think of consciousness being, because we don't want to infer human stuff into the other than human. We want to see that they have different ways of being. But consciousness is something that all beings have. But the plant people, their consciousness is a little bit different, because we have individual consciousness. Like as a human, I have my own consciousness, and you have, and then we have the collective also. But we have individual consciousness. The animistic way of thinking is that humans have individual consciousness. Also, animals have individual consciousness. Although when we are pack or herd animals, we also have the collective consciousness. But then when we go to the trees, they are called the standing people, and trees are not quite the same as plant people, because trees have a little bit more of an individual consciousness compared to the other plant people. Plant people generally have a collective consciousness. So I think I love the way you said the garden is a she, because I thought, well, of course it is, because it's like it's a whole consciousness, the whole garden. So it's really nice, and I think science has backed this up, that trees do some personal thinking. They figure things out, and they form relationships, and they warn each other if there's something that's coming up. So I think this the wonderful thing of the collective consciousness that you had felt. I think it's a really nice way of connecting with the quality of the plant people in the middle world. But then when we talk about animal guides, we kind of they are always well, in my kind of thinking, the animal guide's home is always the lower world. And the lower world in the shamanic map is a place it's a completely natural world before any technology, anything, just nature. You will in the lower world see some humans. For me, I took years seeing any humans in my lower world, and this is very funny because I am a Finnish person and there's very few people here anyway, so it was probably quite natural that I saw mainly animals and plants, and I still, when I see humans, it's very few little groups of hunter-gatherer humans, and then I don't see them for months again. So really, your animal guide will be waiting for you in the lower world. That's where you need to go and get them. And your animal guide is a special animal that's chosen itself for you. It takes form to be just right for you. This is what the guides are all about. They come to us in a form that speaks to us, like the two human guides that I met in my dream that I told you after I had the cancer diagnosis. They came to me. They were in that form because they probably thought this is exactly what is right for me. They do take images in our mind to be able to connect with us. So you never have to worry about whether you should meet a certain animal or whether some animal is trendy or nice to have as a guide, because the animal that will come to you will be just right for you. It will be an image that you will be able to connect with, because when you work with your guide, you need to be able to connect with them. You need to feel that they're very close and they're a really, really close friend, and you can ask them anything and you can always go and journey with them, because you should never journey without your guides when you go to the non-ordinary worlds, because we are middle world beings and we need guides to do shamanic work. We can't go there on our own. So firstly, I think if anyone is interested in shamanic work, the first thing to do is to learn how to journey and to go to the lower world and meet your guide. If you haven't already met them, it might be for some of you listeners that that an animal has already approached you many times in the middle world, in our world. And then you can go to the lower world and look for them and ask them, are you my guide? I've seen you many times. When I go out for walks, you're always there, or you come to me, or you come to my dreams, or whatever. So I think that's the first thing, and I think I would very much advise anyone, even though if someone is not interested in doing shamanic work, to get to know their guide, because it's just so handy. It's just really good to have a guide to ask about stuff.
Well, and I just realized that the hawk and the bunny and the bullfrogs, there's no message there. They're just living their lives. And the whole point of converting the stupid grass into a native plant habitat was in order to support other people's lives. And that actually happened. And it's very cool, but it has no other meaning.
Yeah, and that's middle world. We are here for a very short time and then we die, and this is the middle world stuff. It's not nice for a thinking mind, but it's what happened, and that's why when we connect with the non-ordinary world, the shamanic world, and we connect with our guides, we will have, like Jung said, we will have a completely different experience of ourselves and the world, because we are connected with that which is bigger than us. So I think that's the reason why I think when someone is depressed or they feel that there's no meaning in their life, many people experience it somewhere around midlife or in the second half of life. I do always advise for them to do active imagination work or shamanic journeying, because that will show them something that is just loaded with meaning, just new stuff that they just did not know about the world and themselves. So I think it's inbuilt. I think as humans, we need to make this connection. Neuroscientist Ian McGilchrist, if someone is familiar with his work, he speaks a lot about this connecting the hemispheres in our brain, but also about the connection of the rational and the non-rational, the imaginative and the thinking. Quite similar, quite identical with Jung's idea of bringing everything together to form a whole. Yeah.
You'll not believe this, Nina. I'm going to see Ian McGilchrist speak next Wednesday.
Really? Say hello from Finland.
I was thinking about Anne's experience with the hawk eating the bunny during the vegan fest. I'm vegan, but I leave food out for the fox, and it's you know the food that my cats have rejected, and maybe a dog chew or something, and but a lot of the time there's just peanuts. The foxes like peanuts, the peanuts for the bird, and the fox eats them up. Anyway, I also had a wildlife camera out in the garden, and on this occasion I just left out peanuts, and the fox came, looked at the little bowl that I'd left, turned around and had a poo directly in front of the camera. So he put up his tail and you just see the poo dropped perfectly onto the little bowl that I had left for him. And then, off he went. And I showed it to my friend who loves foxes, and she said, yeah, you know what he's saying? He's saying, hey, vegan bitch, give me something better to eat.
So I have to tell one more. So we put a camera out back too, and I will put squash or pumpkins out for the squirrels and chipmunks and whoever. And there was a big pumpkin, this is last fall, and they had gotten into it, they were eating it, but it was taking a few days, and the fox came by and he sniffed it, and then he lifted his leg and peed into the damn pumpkin. And we're looking at this going, you shit, middle of the night he pissed in the pumpkin. It was So, I mean, he had a sense of humor, and I think he was saying the same thing. You leave them food. What about me?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's one really important thing about the animistic thinking, because I am vegan too, but I don't have a problem with beings eating other beings if it is done in the relationship mode. If it's done in the animistic mode, I don't have a problem. The reason I am vegan is that it is impossible in our world. I do not want to support suffering. But if we had an animistic way of hunting and gathering, that would not be a problem. It would just not be a problem, because we would ask for prey, we would ask for food, we would give something in return, and we would really do a ceremony for whatever it is that we've killed, and we would really be extremely grateful. We would use everything that we've taken, and we would also give back. But this does never happen. I mean, we don't have any way of doing this in the modern world. So I think that's why so many people are vegan. It's just a way of saying, as long as this is so twisted and so horrible, then I will not take part in it. So I think it's like a modern way of taking part in lessening the suffering in a way that it's not balanced. It's not like some people are vegan and then some just cause suffering to animals by even the farming system. But I think it's that animism is about balance. It's exactly what, well, the hawk did a hawk thing, and it's just balance. It's just, I need food and hawks need food, and hawks are going to get their food, and then there will be, there will be the ecosystem is something that will make sure that it's all in balance. But then in comes human without their ecological mentalizing skill, because it's lost, and then we do horrible things. We cannot remain in balance. And the job of the shaman in our ancestors' world, in the human group, was to restore balance when it had gone off balance. This was always the case. And I think modern shamanic practitioners should always have this as a guideline when we do stuff, whatever it is that we do. It's about restoring balance, and it's for the community. So it's always these things. And I think there are so many modern shamans who don't call themselves that, or it's not something that people should call themselves, because it's a name that the community gives the person, not the person to themselves. But I think there are so many people who are doing this, restoring balance and working for the community. And I think that's just, and well, of course, to be a shamanic practitioner, there's also that traveling to the unseen worlds, the non-ordinary reality. But I think many people do that as well, without kind of being completely conscious that they're doing it. There's lots of dreamers, there's lots of meditation people who travel. They might call the phenomena in different words, but I think there's something very organic, very very human animal about the shamanic work, and it's something that's kind of inbuilt. It's inherent in I think in all of us. We all can do it, but I think there are some people that are just called to it so much that they have no option, so they just have to go with it. Yeah.
Katerina mentioned in the chat that she says, I think we need to stop handling others, other beings, children, other parts of ourselves, and instead meet them. Katerina.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, or sitting with this, for a while, and I work in psychiatry for the moment, and everyone I work with, professionals,
Oh, you've frozen.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
You're back.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
My connection is a little bit unstable.
Yeah.
But they always handle people. So they don't dare to meet them because they're afraid of probably seeing themselves somehow. And I see that with the more than human beings. I have worked a lot with horses. There's this tradition of you need to handle them,
Yeah.
otherwise they get dangerous. And I know when I just forget about what I'm supposed to be doing or saying or being, and just am. And then there is these beautiful meetings. It doesn't matter if it's a plant or a tree or a cat or a horse or a person or whatever person. It's
Just frozen again, just for a second.
Yeah.
But we did hear you say,
Yeah. I think that's such wise words about handling. I am painfully aware of how, especially in today's world, mental health work is about kind of programs and protocols, and then you do this and that exercise, and you have to follow the certain thing to get from part A to part B, and then you measure, and then you fill in forms, and this mechanistic thinking, and at least here in Finland it seems that so very little value is given to the moment when there's someone there curious about what it's like to be you as a being, just really curious about what it's like to be you. And I think this is incredibly good advice for any kind of connection, to be curious about what is it like to be a birch? What is it like to be a bear? What is it like to be a dandelion? And then you can do a journey. I once did a journey to the lower world to be dandelion, and it was mind-blowing. I never knew. I came back and I'm like, okay, huge respect. And every time I see them, I'm like, you are, I feel that they are much, they are kind of above me in their abilities of strength and courage and all that, and they are teachers because they obviously can teach us a lot. So I think this openness to what is it like to be you, and what is it about you-ness that I can learn about, because we think about we talk about teachings of plants, but it's not that, it's not shallow. It's actually, we can go to them and ask them, what can you teach me, and can you help me be you for a little while so I can understand, and we can do this, and we can do this with the, like in therapy work, I think we should do this with other humans, like, help me understand you, what is it like to be you, and then we do our best, we make our best effort, that we try to use everything that we have to understand what it is like to be the other person. And we can do this. That's the magic. We can do this because we're humans, and we have the ability to relate, and we have our mirror neurons, which are made for this purpose. They are made to understand how the other person is feeling and experiencing. So we have all the cells and all the organs exactly for this purpose. So we should trust it, and we should trust it with the more than human world as well, to trust the fact that our ancestors knew how to be in relationship. We still have the ability. We've lost connection with it. We might feel that it's lost, but it's still there because it's inbuilt. It's in our biology. It's so deeply in us that we just need to go back to it. And that's when I always talk about how to be human animal again. This is what I'm talking about, we don't need to sell all our stuff and become hunter-gatherers again. We can't do that, obviously, it's not possible, but we can connect with the human animal in us. We can bring these parts together, and we can experience the world from the human animal wonderfulness, which is obviously our extremely cool superpower, which is our prefrontal cortex and our thinking functions in our very, very complicated brain and our nervous system. But it's also our animalness, which is linked to everything. And we need to bring these together, like Ian McGilchrist says. We need to bring these together, and Carl Jung says this too. And I don't know if animists say this; they just are it. So it's but it's the same stuff. So this is I think that I do believe very, very firmly. Issy, you asked about my worldview. I do believe that if we can come back to our human animal nature, I think we can find our slot in the ecosystem. We can live in this world without destroying other species and ourselves. And I think that's a really, really wonderful thought, that there is a place for us humans in the world as well. We're not just destructive, evil things.
No. The thing that strikes me is that many people ask for connection, so that they have this longing, deep desire to connect also with a more than human, but they don't want to relate. So there is this connection longing, but the relationship is so scary, so they don't.
Yeah. I think that's our trauma. We have personal trauma, but then I think we also have collective trauma. We've lost this ability, and I think the other than human world can really help us restore this ability to relate.
Yeah.
Because you only have to look outside. Everything's relating. Everyone's relating out there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. And I'm mindful that it's coming close to 20 to 10 for you in Finland. So we really ought to allow you to go. But I want to thank you so much. I knew that, having spent 6 sessions with you doing Jungian coaching, which was just so wonderful and life-changing for me, I knew that this would be a wonderful session. And indeed it has been. So I want to thank you so much from all of us at Kerelos. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me speak about the stuff that's most important, that's most close to my heart. And I'm always left with hopeful feelings when I see and hear of people who are like-minded, who share some of the experience that I've had, because that's connection. That's for me also part of power retrieval, that I connect with other humans. It's not always easy when you live in two worlds, but these are instances when I feel that my power is rising, and it's kind of due to this connection tonight. So thank you so much, and I wish you well, be safe and well, and I really hope to see you all again somewhere at some point.
Thank you, Nina. Our next Living One speaker will be a week from today on June the 6th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We'll welcome Brother Phap Dung, a monastic Dharma teacher at Deer Park Monastery in Escondido, California, who was ordained by Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh in 1998. If you enjoy Living One and feel called to support Kerelos, Living One and all our sanctuary residents, please consider donating. There's a link on our website, kerelos.org, and it's always good to get those extra herbs for the rabbits. For those of you who haven't already joined the Living One course, you'll have heard me mention that I'm going to be sending out the exercise that Nina has recommended. That's to the people who've enrolled in the course. If you haven't, but you're really keen to get that, you're still welcome to do so. Just go to our website to learn more and enroll, or contact us at contact@kerelos.org. If you're interested, Kerelos also offers a free weekly silent meditation session every Wednesday at midday Pacific time. You can find out more about Vital Breath for Earth on our website. So once again, thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate that you've given us your time on this Friday. Thank you, Nina. Thank you all of those who attended, and look forward to seeing you all again.